Today's guest is a glam woke queen. We share a love of Sister Act, as well as supporting the up-and-coming female professional wrestling talent. If you don't know her yet, mark my words, you will. Ladies and gentlemen, my girl, Debbie Keitel. Oh, first of all, how are you doing?
I'm not too bad. Coming up to Christmas now, so just doing some last minute shopping
Oh my, are the
before.
shops crazy right now?
Oh, insane! Because we're kind of in between lockdowns, I suppose, still over in
Yeah.
Ireland. So, there's still some restrictions, and people are afraid that we might go back into lockdown now. So everyone's like rushing to get everything.
Well, you and I are similar in terms of Canada and
Yeah,
Ireland. They're on the more hyper side. As soon as
yeah,
something, yeah, as soon as we
yeah.
get a little spike, they're like, all right, bring it back.
Shut it down.
Yeah, opposed to Florida, that is pretending that there's nothing happening.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll take the safer side. I don't know about you, but
Same, same.
yeah. Do you have a big family that you'll be celebrating with?
Unfortunately, not this year. Just with the cases being so high, we're all just being extra cautious. So,
That's
small
nice.
Christmas for us this year.
Oh, okay. So, Debbie, how did we find wrestling?
I suppose, if we go all the way back, my dad probably,
Okay.
he used to travel over to the UK in the early 90s. And while he was over there, he'd pick up, VHS tapes and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
we started watching Raw and Saturday Night, main event and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
then when my father realized that we had an interest, he started showing us his tapes and stuff. Of course, we didn't watch it in order. We'd be watching an episode on TV and then he put on the tape and we would think that this was a
Ah.
continuation.
You're like, the storylines are weird in America.
Yeah, yeah. But back then, I didn't really understand it. That was like 96, 97. I was just kind of, taken aback by like the flamboyant costumes and the characters and stuff like that. I didn't really understand it, but I was obsessed with China.
Oh,
And
interesting.
yeah, and I remember when she was first introduced and she attacked Marlena from behind, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, who's that? I was just like infatuated with her. And yeah, as the years went on, then I just got really, really into it as a kid. And then, as I got older, kind of my love for wrestling kind of faded away.
Yeah.
And then I was actually living in New York, and it was just everywhere. Wrestling was everywhere in New York. There's those
Yeah.
posters outside Madison Square Garden. And then one day I went to a house show, and then I just kind of fell back in love with it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and then yeah, the rest is history. I moved back to Ireland and I just started training, thinking, it might be a fun activity to do at the weekends, and then
Yeah,
it just
yeah.
became a thing.
And what brought you to New York?
Initially, I went over to work in film and television.
Oh,
While I was over there, then I worked for a marketing media company,
okay.
and we would have done a lot of work with fashion TV and would have worked on New York Fashion Week. And one day, our television host didn't show up to work, and a microphone was put in my hand, and I was pushed out on the runway, and I was told, "Yeah, you have to interview Pete Wentz over there from Fall Out Boy. Just ask him about the show." And I was like, "Oh,
That is the coolest, most divine intervention moment
yeah,
I've ever heard in my whole life.
yeah,
People in New York would like bleed for a position like that.
yeah."
Wow. And how did you do that? That's sink or swim.
I must have done well because she kept me on as the broadcast journalist.
Oh
And I was
my
no longer
gosh.
behind the scenes. So I got to meet some amazing people and interview some fascinating characters. So it was pretty cool.
That is okay. So, what's your educational background?
So I have a master's in production and direction, and I have a BA in audiovisual media.
So, my best friend that I do this podcast with, she's the editor and producer. She has her, oh,
Amazing.
I'm going to screw this up. Sorry, Rochelle. She has her master's in, I want to say theater, but
Yeah.
there's probably way more fancy words to that. But every female professional wrestler that we interview that has a background that has to do with media or film or acting or marketing, we're like, these are the women that are going to take over the world in wrestling. This is
Yeah.
a new breed of women, and it's so exciting.
Yeah.
So kudos to you for having this extremely, sought after background in the world of media, era, but you've just elongated your wrestling career out of the ring by 5, 10, 15 years. So
Yeah, I hope so. It was so beneficial as well throughout wrestling, when I first got started, I was very interested in the brand side of things and like how to get yourself out there and coming up with show reels and clips and gifs and stuff like that. And people
yeah.
were still not really catching on to that when I first started. And they were kind of seeing what I was doing, and then they were encouraged then to kind of do the same, and it just kind of helped build a scene over here as well. So yeah, I think anyone that has any kind of TV or film experience it's definitely like a big a
Priceless,
big seller.
really,
Yeah,
because you need that in 2021. It doesn't even matter your wrestling abilities, your social
yeah,
media presence is
yeah,
most important. So
yeah,
you're ahead of the curve. Go girl.
yeah.
And as someone like myself, like I love fashion, I love music. And I think one of the, I would say, if I'm being honest, what attracted me to you was your fashion sense
Oh, thank you.
and your edginess. Like I can see you're ahead of the curve in makeup and hair. And then now I'm knowing where this is coming from. You're coming from
Yeah,
a fashion background.
yeah.
Oh, very
Yeah, I've
cool.
I've always been obsessed with fashion. I love kind of, 80s Chanel into like 90s, Versace. I just love all that style, that kind of edgy style. Yeah.
Which it doesn't really it doesn't really have a place in wrestling because it hasn't been filled. So you're coming from a couture angle, and
Yeah.
that's really interesting and fun. Because wrestling has always been like very camp, very over the top, 90s Pamela Anderson.
Yeah.
And, we don't have to be that. We can be
Yeah.
chic
Yeah,
and kick ass.
exactly.
So I really enjoy what you're bringing.
Thank you.
So back to being a fashion broadcaster, fashion
Mhm.
journalist, I guess,
Yeah.
broadcast journalist. Tell me some of the coolest people you met, like someone that was like, I can't believe I just met this person on a personal level.
On a personal level, Whoopi Goldberg, that was
Oh,
incredible.
cool.
Yeah, she was with her granddaughter in front row. I can't remember the show, I can't remember the designer, but I went up to interview her and I was like, ooh, shaking. And
Oh.
I just asked her, you know, what does it mean to like live the dream or follow your dreams? And she
Mm,
said that her dream is to see other people succeed and live their dream. And I just
that's
thought, oh, you're so wholesome. You were exactly how I thought you would be.
that's beautiful. And then
Yeah.
there's probably the other side of you that was playing like Sister Act in your head at the
Yeah.
same time. Yeah. Joyful, joyful Lord.
Literally, because like very few people know this, but I was actually in a Sister Act tribute.
Oh, so you were flipping your shit inside. You weren't
Yeah.
just like having a moment. You were like in it.
I was in it. I was living for it.
Oh, so okay, let's start from the beginning with that.
Yeah.
So it was a Sister Act tribute group.
Yeah.
And okay, so did you play pubs? Like what was your reach? And where can
Um,
I find this?
Luckily enough, it's not on YouTube. It was kind of not a youth group, but it was mainly for, women who had retired, who were kind of looking for an outlet. And it would kind of started off as, kind of a choir. And then half the women in the choir, thought it was boring and they were like, come on, we need to do something different. So we started doing like touring to youth clubs,
Oh,
and we do kind of cafe night shows and stuff like that. And then we started doing weddings and it just got
get
a bit
out!
ridiculous. Yeah.
Because what woman or man, like I don't want to gender be biased, but like I don't know anyone, any friend of mine from the 90s, like our age, I know you're an 80s baby,
Yeah.
that can't do the entire final act.
Yeah.
Like that's amazing. That
I
sounds
know.
so fun. How long did you do that for?
I did that for a year. That was actually when I moved back from New York. I
Ah,
just needed an outlet. I missed kind of being in front of a camera performing. So I applied for this, you know, they were looking for volunteers to help with this production and setup. And then I was like, oh, well, I can actually sing. So
Cool.
we just played around, we were messing around and stuff. And then I ended up being part of the act. And I suppose our biggest thing was when we were actually hired by a cathedral to perform at a mass, which we all thought was like, do they know what we do?
I was gonna say, in Irish Catholics, like I don't.
Yeah,
It's all
so
different.
yeah, and it was the final act from, it was the main song from Sister Act. And, you
Beautiful.
know, they started off with a light little piano introduction and everyone was like, that's lovely, that's lovely. And then, you know, the drums and then the boogie boogie on the keyboards. And it was just everyone, but the whole place was erupted, like they really enjoyed it. We didn't know how it was going to go down.
How can you not enjoy it? Let's be real. But yeah, that's a risk.
Yeah. Yeah.
A little deviation from the hymns.
Yeah, yeah. But no, it was fun, and you know, it was lovely meeting some you know, women that have kind of been in that industry that have retired and just wanted an outlet. So it was nice to be around those people.
Good for you. Oh,
Yeah.
all I can hear is you're fun, you're badass, and you also have a big heart. So I'm glad we got to the bottom of that right away.
Yeah.
That's such a cool thing. Did you guys have a name?
No, we never got that far. No, I think
Okay.
it was just, you know, I can't remember what it was, something club or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, was there anyone that you had interviewed that you did idolize that, you know, they always say don't meet your idols, that you met that kind of went, when your broadcast journalism days?
I'm trying to think. I'm very fortunate that everyone was really lovely. I didn't have any, you know, bad interactions. The odd time, you know, a couple of people were just like, sorry, I'm so busy, I can't, and like that's fine.
Fair.
I suppose the person that I didn't expect to be this way was actually Norman Reedus
Okay.
from The Walking Dead.
Yes.
He was at it was kind of like a promotional party, and he was in the corner, and I kind of went up to him and I was like, I don't suppose you want to do an interview? And he was like, sure. And then after the interview, he was just so cool. He was like, you sticking around? You know, are you from here? And, you know, he wanted to engage in conversation. He was asking about where I was from. And then he had friends from Ireland and he was here for a while. And I just didn't expect to have an actual human conversation.
I was going to say a human, nice.
Yeah, yeah. So he was very chill. He was very much like, I don't want to be here. I just have to be here. And I was like,
Fair.
same. But he was so down to earth and so chill, and he's definitely someone that definitely stood out because even post interview he still wanted to actually have a conversation, and it wasn't just, you know, this is what I do and this is my movie, okay, bye. It was very much like, so how are you?
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you had nothing but, you know, positive experiences. 'Cause
Yeah, I was
that's
very
a really
fortunate.
cutthroat world. So
Yeah, for sure.
now, are you working in any type of broadcast journalism or fashion back in Ireland?
No, wrestling has pretty much taken over everything.
Okay.
So apart from doing the odd, you know, production or short or something like that in my spare time, it's pretty much just wrestling now.
That's all right. And how long
Yeah.
have you been wrestling now?
So I started training in 2016 and then I debuted in 2017, I believe. Yeah. And yeah, ever since then.
Wow. Now, are you traveling much? You know, as this year's been crazy?
Yeah, trying to. So I was pretty much 18 months without wrestling, no traveling, no nothing. It was awful. But, you know, I have other outlets, you know, in, you know, fashion and stuff like that. So like I was able to keep myself occupied. A lot of
Good.
knitting.
Oh, really? Please tell me you have like an Etsy page.
No, I don't. I wouldn't put any of this stuff on Etsy.
You know
All
what?
trial and error.
I'm with you. I'm a knitter too. And I feel like it's a real dying art. And
Yeah.
I don't know anybody under the age of 30 that
No.
can knit.
No. Like
So-
I wouldn't even say I can knit. I can like do a couple of lines and then it all goes wrong. It like starts this width and by the end of it it's like I have picked up 10 new stitches and
But you're
But
doing it. You're doing
that's
it.
it. Yeah, that's it. And it's a distraction, and and at least I'm not on my phone, which is my biggest thing, is to try
True.
and do something that isn't on my phone. So that was nice. Nice little break from
Glad you
social
brought it
media.
up. That's something I haven't done in a year or two. And I think it's just because I've been in my podcast world and getting back into wrestling, but like shit, there's nothing else going on. I should really knit a scarf or something.
I
Now,
know.
the whole thing about my podcast is I really like to pull the curtain back a little bit on the person behind the wrestler because, wrestling can be boring. We want to know about the wrestling. We watch your match, we read your Wikipedia,
Yeah.
but I like to know about, kind of the spiritual side about you. Is there
hmm
anything that you practice in your everyday, whether it's, a morning ritual, meditation? Is there anything you do, even just going for a walk,
hmm
that keeps you centered, that you practice every day?
Definitely. I always find 20 minutes, half an hour where I go for a walk and I just put in my headphones and I listen to my favorite music, and it's something I do every day, and it's just that's my me time,
Good.
and no one's interrupting it. Like, I'm free to walk whatever direction, wherever I want to go,
Yeah.
and it's just my guaranteed me time every day that no one else is a part of. And I just, I put on my headphones, I listen to, Fleetwood Mac, Creedence Clearwater,
Oh,
like all my
nice.
favorite bands.
70s girl.
Yeah. And I
Love
just
it.
switch off. And, if it's not music, it will be a podcast.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's just silence, sometimes
Yeah.
I just leave everything at home and I just go for a walk. But it's definitely something I do every single day just to guarantee myself some me time.
That's good. And it's so important.
Yeah.
And I think that, the benefit of COVID is we've all really, I think, had a hard restart on how we practice self care. Would
Yeah.
you say you've had a little bit of a hard restart, or were you pretty
Uh,
good before?
I think I was so caught up in the grind and the shuffle that didn't like I didn't even not that I didn't know what self-care was, but
Yeah.
it wasn't a priority, which is so sad when you think about it, that you couldn't find one thing that you do for yourself. And
Yeah.
I know when lockdown first came in, like our first kind of round, I was very much like, what do I do? And everyone was like, what do you mean what do you do? Do you face mask, have a bath? And I was like, and then what? I'll be like, I was like, I'll be bored, I'll need to do something. I was so like, I have to do something. Like I can't sit still. And then
Yeah.
second lockdown, I was like, I actually can not do anything. And then by now, I'm like, right, I have to get my walk in. It's very important to me. I have to get my
Yeah.
walk in,
Yeah.
or I have to just like
That's so
have a coffee
good.
in silence or something like that. I just need to find 30 minutes a day just for me, nobody else.
That's so good. Good for you. I hope you
Yeah.
never ever lose that.
I hope so too, because I am actually struggling trying to get back into that travel,
Yeah.
every day, this is where I'm going to be Saturday, here I am Sunday, and it's like, how did I do this before?
Oh, I know. Because I
Yeah.
think we all had our blinders on. Like we
Yeah.
were, the word mindful is one of those words that I think is thrown around and we don't
Yeah.
actually know what that means. But we weren't doing anything mindfully. We were just,
Yeah.
boom, we got to be there at this time.
Yeah.
Like no one was stopping to smell the roses. I certainly
No.
wasn't.
No. I was the same. I was literally like, when I first started traveling, I was like, oh, I might like find a half an hour, run away from the venue, try and see where I am. And then that just went out the window, because it was like, okay, I have a half an hour, I'm going to sleep, or I have a half an hour, I better do my makeup. I have a half, it was like time. There was just no such thing as time back
Yes.
then.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I did 5 years with TNA,
Yeah.
traveled the whole world, and I went hotel, airport, venue. And if I had the chance to do it all over again, I don't need to go to bed at 9 o'clock. I can
Yeah.
rush my makeup.
Yeah.
Stop. See where
Yeah.
you are. It's such, the world is so incredible, and it's so easy to get sucked into that
I
tunnel
know.
vision.
I know. It's so hard. So hard.
What has been your favorite place that wrestling has brought you to?
Um, Trying to think. Probably Japan. That was pretty
Ah,
incredible. Yeah, yeah.
how long were you there?
I was in Tokyo for 3 weeks.
Wow.
It was incredible. It was such a culture shock, but
Yeah.
like a shock I needed, because the previous time had been when I moved to New York, and obviously that was a big, culture shock as well.
Yeah.
And I just think it's nice to kind of reboot, if that makes sense, by going to different places and
Oh
realize,
gosh.
like, there's an incredible world out there, and that, you don't have to stay in the one place. So it's just real eye-opening, kind of
Yeah.
resets you and stuff like that.
Yeah. And not only is the world such a big, beautiful place, but I think travel makes you appreciate where you come from so much more.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so important to travel. And obviously, our world is not encouraging that right now. But
Yeah.
even if it's just driving 2 hours outside of your city, get out.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Now, has wrestling ever made you cry? Whether it was tears of joy or God knows
Yeah. Oh,
anything else.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think, they always say, like, don't just go through don't go through the motions of wrestling, go through
Yeah.
the emotions. And I think that's so valid, because you could be on such a streak where everything's going really well, and then, boom, something happens, like the pandemic, and it's just like, it's all gone, and it's such an emotional business anyway.
Yeah.
And especially when you're playing characters and you get caught up in your storylines and stuff like that. And then obviously there's politics as well. And
Yeah.
there's just so much of it that can be quite emotional, and it can be so draining as well. But yeah, I've laughed, I've cried, I've gotten angry, I've every emotion.
I think that's so important, though, for our listeners to know. Like,
Yeah.
they know we're human
Yeah.
and they know we have lives outside wrestling, but I don't think they realize how much of an emotional roller coaster the business itself is.
Yeah, because it's not, you're not measured on, how much of a good wrestler you are. Like, it's not like, basketball, where you are actually the top person, because you're super talented, you are the best, so you will win.
Yeah.
So it's measured on, people, and if they can trust you, and if you're, maybe you're flavor of the month, maybe you're not. And it's like a constant journey of, we want you, we don't want you, we want you, we don't want you. And you just have to kind of roll with it. And you really do have to have skin so thick.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're not, we're our own worst critics, but then we're being criticized by major companies. And then now, because of social media, fans get to kick you whenever they choose. So, yeah, a thick skin is an understatement, I think.
Yeah, for sure. The
So
social
listeners,
media,
be nice.
yeah. Like you said, the social media aspect as well is a section that I never thought I'd have to deal with, because I just thought, a promoter would be telling me, you're not good enough, or you are good enough, but now it's like fans fans
Yeah.
are now saying, we don't like you, or we do like you, and change this, do this. And it's just, it's a whole other audience that you need to, like, live up to as well.
Well, if I can, you're in, I'd say, like, still very much the beginning of your career. You're not new, but you're building who you are. And if I could go back and say anything to my baby self in wrestling, I just want you to know you are enough, and you are talented, and you are beautiful, and the best thing you can ever do in the wrestling world is live authentically. And I think that's what you're doing. And of course, we're going to try new things, and you are going to listen to your quote unquote bosses, but live authentic, be you, because there's always going to be room for people who make their own space. Don't put yourself in a box.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
You're doing amazing. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Now, who would you say inspires you outside of wrestling?
Outside of wrestling. That's a tough one. I didn't expect that question.
If anyone, like, I don't think everyone has mentors, but is there any, like, for me, I'm really inspired by women in music typically. And for me, it's Gwen Stefani, Courtney Love, not for her history, more for her presence, and Debbie Harry. That's who I would say I draw all my influences from.
Yeah.
Is there anyone in music or fashion? And actually, sorry, I'm missing the most important one to me, RuPaul.
Oh yeah, yeah. I can agree with that one. I can agree with that one. I suppose I mean I have a couple of idols. Like Dolly Parton would be one of them.
Mm.
I like to kind of surround myself with strong women, whether it be in music or film. Goldie Hawn, another one of my idols.
That is a great one.
Yeah,
Actually,
Goldie
you're
Hawn.
kind of like a redheaded Goldie Hawn.
Yeah.
You have those doughy eyes. Oh, you are very Goldie. Oh, I see that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think women that, women in general inspire me. And I think women, especially that have made it to the top, that pass it down and filter it down and look after the women coming up and advise. Like someone like Susan Sarandon would be another hero of mine.
Good one.
Sandra Bullock. Yeah, just strong women in general.
You say I didn't expect that question, but you are nailing it. Every answer, I'm like, you're killing me. Like, yes, yes.
It's only when you start thinking about like who, what articles who would you read or what movies would you see, and these are kind of the women. Like even if it was a terrible film and Sandra Bullock was in it, I'd be like, I'm going to see that film.
Yeah. We will support our women because we can't be perfect all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, have you ever had any injuries that kind of towed you close to the line where you're like, oof, I don't know if I'm going to keep doing this?
I've coined the nickname Weetabix ankles, because my Weetabix or my ankles turned to dust.
Oh, you don't think Weetabix is delicious?
Oh yeah, sure. But yeah, I've had a couple of nothing major, but I've had a couple of injuries with my ankles and stuff. But majority of wrestlers have, and it's always on something like that, like a roll, like you're running the ropes, and a board, isn't placed right, and your foot falls through, and you're like, oh great, well now I can't run.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's what the fans can't see, and you're hurting so bad.
Yeah, and you're taped up, and you have your boots on, and you have supports on, and your foot is like giant and swollen by the time you finish your match, and you have to take it all off and try and walk on it.
Oh, speaking of which, who would you say your dream match would be with?
Purely because I trained under her in Japan, but it would be Emi Sakura.
Oh, good one.
Yeah. I had the opportunity to work with her on a previous occasion, but unfortunately the match got switched in the end. But it was like I was so close, so close.
Oh wow. So would you say you draw a lot of inspiration from your time in Japan?
Yeah, it was the first time I kind of got away from the scene and kind of figured out what I wanted to bring to the table and what I wanted to be like. And that was really encouraged, like individuality. And when I left there, I was told like, these are the things that you do really well, so keep doing them and don't listen to anyone else. And I kind of kept that with me then. Yeah. Good.
And that's exactly what I was trying to say. Like, be you, because that's what sells. Like, I've got a million blondes with big boobs and really white teeth, and it's like, okay, well, let's see other things. That doesn't represent the demographic of our world. So let's see characters.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I know it's rather cliche, but what is your ultimate goal in wrestling? Really, is it to thrive on the indies? Is it to make it to a major company? What would you love?
When we all kind of start out with this one goal and the one dream of getting a contract or getting into a federation or a major company, but then what happens if that's not a possibility? Or do you just spend the next 10, 15 years chasing something that isn't going to happen? So it's like, well, what can you get out of it from a personal point of view? And can you still enjoy it if that dream is gone? And that's kind of what I spent the last 18 months trying to figure out, because I had such this is a sign, I need to just walk away, I'll maybe this isn't for me, or no, this is for me and I still want it. And I had that constant battle. And at the end of the day, if all I can do is achieve, a goal on the indies, which would be to, be the most successful woman on the indies, well, then that's what I'm going to focus on, because you could spend your life chasing, that piece of paper, and it may not never happen. So I don't want to look
Sure.
back and be like, I wasted so many years going for that one thing when these 10 other things were happening at the same time and I just overlooked them. So I think my goal going forward is to kind of help the newer girls that are coming up on the indies, help them, get them to a level where, they're comfortable and they can thrive on their own. Basically do what other women did for me with them. And yeah, just protect them. It's a big world out there, but it's also a big bad world as well. So just, all you can do is point people in the right direction and hope, that
That
it'll all work out.
that is really beautiful, and that's like wrestling can be this really shallow, superficial business, and you're
Yeah.
finding meaning for yourself,
Yeah.
and so many male-driven industries. We're 20 to 1, and wrestling
Yeah.
is no different.
Nope.
And I think it is a sport that breeds women to be pegged against each other.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
if anything, we've got to be behind one another.
Yeah.
We are powerful. Women are powerful, and we are way more powerful in numbers. So I think any woman that you get to touch is very lucky to meet you in the wrestling business. So please keep up doing the good work. That's a great answer.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm not going to keep you forever because I feel like we are becoming very fast friends, and we
Yeah.
could keep blabbing. I like to end every interview with my 10 tailor-made questions.
Okay.
It's kind of a speed round, but don't feel rushed in your answers.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Name a beauty product you cannot live without.
MAC Skin Finish Mineralized Powder.
And is that an everyday, or is that for wrestling wear, or?
That would be every day to cover up the baggies.
Well, it works because I don't see any bags. What is your favorite exercise?
Bench press.
What is your biggest pet peeve?
People that stand up when the plane lands and block the aisle.
Oh my God. I think flying is my pet peeve. People
Yeah.
act like complete assholes.
Yeah.
Like it's like they switch their brains off and they just become feral. Like
Yeah.
just wait till the door opens. You're not going to get there any sooner.
Yep. I know. And especially during a pandemic, having someone standing over you, blocking the aisles while you're trying to like have some space.
They're just people and flying is just,
Yeah.
it could be a whole episode. Who is your celebrity crush?
Oh, I would say Sebastian Stan or Henry Cavill.
Nice. What is your favorite band or artist?
Favorite band? Oh, that's a tough one. I'm going to go ahead and say Led Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Nice. Do you have a secret vice, like drinking a glass of wine in the shower?
That's amazing. Whoever does that, that's amazing. I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
No?
No, I don't
Nothing.
think so.
You just wear your heart on your sleeve. That's fine.
Yep.
I respect that. Okay. What wrestler has the best entrance music?
Gonna say Victoria.
Now was she someone that inspired you on your
Yeah,
early years?
a huge inspiration. Yeah.
I love Victoria. She's one of those people that I met in wrestling that I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
When I met Lita, I was really disappointed. I thought she was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
And I expected her to be like, punk and down to earth. And she
Yeah.
was not fucking nice. And
Oh, really?
yeah. And, looking back, knowing the company she worked for, she was probably under it. And it probably had nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
But, you take that shit personally. Cause
Oh, for sure.
you're like,
Especially
I
when
love you.
yeah, when you care about someone and like, yeah.
So whatever. And you know what, Lita, no judgment, because I know you probably listen to my podcast. I'd still buy you a glass of wine now, and I'm sure we'd be fast friends. So no judgment. Speaking of, what is your drink of choice?
Oh, I'm a big fan of espresso martinis or any cocktail that you wouldn't know there was alcohol in.
I always thought you were going to say any alcohol that's balanced with caffeine. I like to be alert and wasted.
Yes. I have to actually agree with that.
That's amazing. Heart attacks, not important.
No.
What was your most embarrassing moment in the ring?
Oh, there's been
Usually
so many.
this is like a wardrobe malfunction, a bodily fluid malfunction.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, in my wrestling gear, there's always, something slips.
Now, are you taping or you've got curves, girl, so it's hard.
Yeah, that's it. It's trying to find the balance of what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. But yeah, no, I'd tape up. I'd cling film them in if I could.
Be careful what you wish for, because it's challenging. Physics are hard.
Yeah, it's true. I would say because I do quite comedic, I suppose, performances in the ring, it would just be something I said. I remember one time downing a coffee and screaming, "I smell colors!" And just, you get backstage and you're like, did I really say that? Oh.
Totally acceptable. That's the stuff that fans want to hear, though, right?
It's true.
Now, where can our listeners find you on the internet?
So you can find me on Twitter at Debbie Keitel, or on Instagram, the Debbie Keitel, I think. Yes.
Okay.
Instagram.
Don't worry. I will link it at the bottom. I just like putting people
amazing.
on the spot. Okay. Last question. Finish this lyric. I took my love and I took it down.
I can't.
I climbed a mountain and I turned around. And I saw my reflection landslide.
Oh.
It's because of my stellar singing that you didn't get it. It's okay.
You swept me away with that. That was amazing.
Me.